Good evening and welcome everyone to the Planning Committee Small Applications. I'm Councillor Richard Taylor, Chair of the committee. Before we get started with the meeting, I have a few housekeeping announcements to make. There are no planned fire alarm tests today. If you hear the fire alarm, please leave by the nearest fire exit and make your way to the agreed assembly point, which is it's at St John's Churchyard off Druid Street. Council security staff will be available to direct you. The public toilets are located off the main reception area. There is a refreshment machine for use by members of the public in the waiting area outside this meeting room. Finally, please switch your mobile phone to silent whilst in the meeting room. This meeting is being live streamed on the Council's YouTube channel, so if you address the committee, please do not disclose any information you do not wish to be in the public domain. Members of the public are welcome to film, audio record, photograph, or post on social media the public proceedings of the meeting. If asked, I'd ask you to please be considerate towards other people in the room and take care not to disturb the proceedings. If you are filming the meeting, please do not film the audience. You're welcome to use our free guest Wi-Fi at Southwark. There's no login required for this Wi-Fi. And during the meeting, members of this committee will not access the internet, except as it relates to the official business of the meeting. Send or receive emails, texts, messages, or post on social media concerning the business of the committee. I would also like to remind speakers to use their microphones when speaking, as only the audio from the microphone is captured on the live stream. And with that, you just press the button to turn it on and you don't hold the button down. It's always a tricky one. And not to place their mobile devices next to the microphones to avoid interference. So the first item is apologies. Have we received any apologies? I think we have a full attendance. Okay. Item 2 is confirming the voting members. Please will the voting members of the committee indicate by raising their hands. Great. Thanks. And then notification of any items of business which the chair deems urgent. The addendum report and members pack have been circulated for this meeting. I'm sure everyone's had a look at that. Item 4 is the disclosure of interests and dispensations. Does any member wish to declare any interests or dispensations in respect of any item or issue to be considered at this meeting? All good?
I can declare that I'm James Moyes, the Councillor for Camborne Green Ward, where one of these instances is relating to.
Okay, great. Thanks, James. Item 5, the minutes. Can we agree the minutes for the meeting held on 30th of June 2026 as an accurate record of the proceedings? That's pages 1 to 5. Do members agree? Okay, great. And then 6, the development management. The next item of business concerns the determination of planning applications. I would like to remind everyone of the committee guidance on the conduct of business. 1. Officers will present the report, outline their recommendations and answer questions raised by the committee. 2. If present and wishing to speak, the following may then address the committee for no more than 3 minutes. 1 spokesperson representing any objectors to the application, and by now they should have identified a single spokesperson if more than one objector wishes to speak. The time will be divided accordingly within the 3-minute time slot. The applicant or agent, 1 spokesperson representing any supporter of the application who lives within 100 metres of the development site, and then a ward councillor representing the area affected by the proposal. And then 3, each speaker should restrict their comments to the planning aspects of the proposal and should avoid repeating information which is already in the report. 4, at the end of each representation, the committee may ask questions of the presenter. After receiving all submissions, the committee will debate the application and consider the recommendation. This is a council committee meeting, which is open to the public, and there should be no interruptions from the audience. The chair has the authority to maintain order. Attendees whose behaviour prevents the meeting from proceeding smoothly will be asked to leave the meeting. Finally, I would like everyone present to know that, although this planning committee comprises of members of different political parties, we are not politically whipped. Our decisions are made in accordance with the Council's planning policy and other material considerations based on the information contained within the relevant reports, together with the consultations, responses, and any verbal submissions made today. So then, we'll now consider the planning applications. So we're starting with item 6.1, application 25 AP 3183 for full planning application. Address 56 to 60 Comber Grove, Camberwell, London, SE 50LQ, pages 11 to 113 of the agenda pack and addendum report. Laura, if you'd want to get started with the presentation. Thanks.
Thank you, Chair. The scheme is for the demolition of the existing youth club and erection of a 6-storey building to provide 39 dwellings, which includes 40% on-site affordable housing provision. Cycle and refuge storage, as well as private and community space, are provided on site. PV panels are also provided on the roof. I have a written update, which is in the printout in front of you, which includes the receipt of one further neighbour representation. This does not raise any new material planning considerations and has been included within the relevant slide within the presentation. The summary of the objection received, which I'll read out to you now. Whilst I recognise the need for affordable housing in Southwark, I do not believe the proposal achieves an appropriate balance between housing delivery and protecting the character, amenity and infrastructure of the local area. In my view, the proposal represents an overdevelopment of the site and conflicts with several key planning principles. These include excessive scale overdevelopment, loss of important community facility, impact on neighbours, traffic, parking and services, pressure on local infrastructure, and this will direct community benefit. Here is the location plan with the site edged in red. Lang House, Grenfell House and Moffat House are shown as the nearest neighbouring properties, with Redcar Street and Comber Grove adjoining the site to the south. Here is an aerial view of the site, shown in the red outline. Badworth Road and Medlar Street are also shown to the south. The site is located within the area vision boundary of Camberwell, the hot food takeaway exclusion zone, the urban zone, flood zone 3 and air quality management area. The next 5 slides provide photographs of the site with the key of where these photos were taken in the bottom right hand corner of each slide. These photos are taken from the west of the site. These photos here are taken from the east of the site. These photos, these photos from the east of the site, and these photos are taken from the west. As you can see from this photo and from the recent site visit, the ball court has been recently resurfaced and a new basketball hoop installed and the surrounding green fencing. These photos here are taken from the south. Here is an existing site plan of the Hollington Boys Club. The ball court is shown on the triangular parcel of land to the west. Here is the existing ground floor, identifying the previously used sports hall, boxing gym and social area within the ground floor space. The existing building abuts the red sightline to the north and the west. Here is the existing first floor plan, showing the previously used offices and double height space of the sports hall and social area. Here is the existing south elevation. The key in the bottom left-hand corner shows where this elevation is taken from. Here is the west elevation, the existing north elevation, and the existing east elevation. The proposed development results in the loss of an existing community facility, which has been vacant since 2016. The site has been on and off the market since 2016, with COVID-19 impacting this. The officer report concludes that the site has been sufficiently marketed to comply with the Council's policy regarding loss of community facilities. The applicant has, however, also provided details of other nearby community facilities which will be accessible for residents. These are listed on this slide. The proposed development would not provide children's play space on site and instead would provide a payment in lieu contribution. This slide shows some of the nearest children's playgrounds and distances from the application site, as demonstrated by the map. This application originally received 6 neighbour letters from the addresses listed on the slide. One further comment was received in the last week, which does not raise any additional material planning considerations. The map on the right-hand side of the screen shows, on the left-hand side of the screen shows the location of the neighbouring objections that were received in relation to the application site. And on the right-hand shows the radius of the neighbouring letters that were sent when the application was validated, with the black dots indicating where a letter has been posted. Underneath is a short summary of the neighbouring objections with further details provided on these matters in the relevant section of the report. This slide shows the proposed development overlaid on the existing building. This is demonstrated by the light blue dashed line, with the dark blue dashed line indicating the outline of the existing boundary walls. The separation distance between the proposed development and the surrounding neighbouring properties are also indicated on this plan. Here is the proposed ground floor plan. There are 4 flats on the ground floor with the cycle storage provided to the rear. The total number of cycle spaces provided is 87. This is broken down into 75 long stay and 12 short stay. The first floor plan is shown here. All the individual room sizes within the flats are of appropriate sizes in accordance with the space standards. There is a high number of dual aspects flats, with 99% of them achieving the recommended daylight for future occupiers. The second floor flat is shown here. The pinwheel layout is efficient in delivering 4 to 8 flats per floor, with each apartment having access to their own private amenity space in the form of a balcony. Here is a third floor plan, which is a repeat of the second floor. And the fourth floor, as you can see here, the massing on the edge adjacent to Grenfell House has been stepped away here. Here is a plan of the 5th floor. External amenity space is provided on this level for use by all residents. This massing is further reduced at this level on the northern edge with Lang House. Here is the roof plan, demonstrating the provision of PV panels on the roof, including the roof access and lift overrun. Here is the proposed cycle parking. Transport Policy have confirmed that the cycle parking layout is in accordance with London Plan Policy T5, with 5% of spaces provided in a larger format suitable, and all of them appearing compliant with the guidance. Here is the proposed refuge storage. Transport Policy waste management, which accords with the waste management guidelines, and provide a sufficient refuse collection point on Cumber Grove, which is shown to the south of the drawing. Here is the urban greening factor table for the scheme, which demonstrates the policy compliance of 0.4. With regard to wheelchair users, here is the plan of how a wheelchair user would access the ground floor wheelchair flat. The lift is 2-sided and the doors en route are automated. Both of these details have been confirmed by the applicant. The proposed development would provide 2 one-bed, 2-person flats and 3 2-bed, 3-person flats as wheelchair housing. This would equate to 11.3% when calculated by habitable room, and is therefore in accordance with policy. All the wheelchair housing is social rented and therefore accords with the policy requirements. Here is the proposed tenure mix, green indicating private, pink social rented and purple being shared ownership. The proposed development provides a policy compliant tenure mix of 25% social rented and 15% shared ownership, which is calculated by habitable room. Here is the front elevation of the scheme as viewed from Cumber Grove. Here is the west elevation as viewed from inside the ball court. Here is the north elevation as if you were standing outside Lang House, and the east from outside Grenfell House. The development has been through a series of pre-application submissions. The key design refinements include addressing the curved corner, the parapet design from plain to include soldier core steel detailing with aluminium coping above and recessed brick banding below. Additional recessed soldier core banding at the base of the 4th floor as a continuation of the balcony, and a setback 5th floor, and ribbed brickwork to the ball adjacent to the ball court. The drawings on the left show the pre-application scheme, and on the right the scheme before you. The next 4 slides show some CGI images provided by the applicant in the last couple of weeks. This is taken as you were viewing the entrance area, taken from inside, looking out onto Cumber Grove. This image is taken from outside the ball court and facing onto the proposed western elevation. And the final image taken from inside the ball court, demonstrating the relationship with the existing use of the ball court and the proposed residential use. The proposed development would have the following Section 106 obligations, including a £42,700 contribution to a 10-year maintenance of the adjacent ball court. This is requested by the public health team. £6,549 loss of employment floor space contribution, 40% on-site affordable housing, £33,000 children play space contribution, Section 278 highways works, which are listed in detail in the highways section of the report, various monitoring fees to do with delivery and servicing, travel plan and CEMP, car club membership, restriction of parking within the current and future CPZs, energy provision, carbon offset funds, the monitoring fee for B&G, and the administration fee for small-scale major planning applications. Planning permission is therefore recommended to be granted subject to conditions and a Section 106 legal agreement. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Laura. Do any members have any points of clarification that they'd like to raise with Laura? Councillor Newens.
Thank you, and thank you very much for the presentation. I just wanted to ask a little bit about the urban greening factor. Obviously, a big part of the urban greening factor rests, that doesn't sound quite right, but it rests on the green roof, shall we say, and it talks about having a minimum of 150 millimetre depth to it. I suppose, I mean, how is that monitored over time, and to make sure that it actually does continue to make that level of contribution to greening?
I don't have the answer to that question specifically, in terms of, in the same way that there are conditions for planning applications, it isn't down to the council to go out and check that they are being complied with. For example, is often planning enforcement cases are opened because the neighbours report that, so there wouldn't be the capacity within the council for people to go out and check that. But it would be down to the applicant to ensure that that is maintained. I don't know if Dennis, if you have anything further to add on that point.
Can I just sort of then, I mean, extrapolating from what you're saying, then what would be, so you're saying basically there would be nothing to stop somebody in future changing that from a green roof to be something else altogether?
So the green roof would be secured within the approved plans. So that is part of the approved documents and the urban greening factor. So it is within the planning permission.
Right, and then so then the question about how, so is there anything that is sort of, how is it guaranteed that that is retained then as the quality of green space which gives it that 0.7 level urban greening factor?
I think it's reasonable for the committee to add a condition for the retention of the green roof in perpetuity.
Okay.
Yeah, something that we can consider. Okay. Yeah.
Thank you. So can we make a note of that then, please? Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Kath?
Can you remind me who the RP is for that?
Metropolitan Thames Valley.
And are they on the council's list?
Yes, they are.
Just never heard of them.
Councillor Newens.
Thank you. Sorry, one more question. And I had some notes which I forgot to bring with me, so I don't know which point it is, but I noticed in the report it refers to funding 3 years worth of car club membership for people living in this block, which I thought was, I mean, I thought was a little bit of a surprise actually. Is that common? Is that a common thing to happen in these sorts of developments?
For major schemes, it's often a car club scheme, and parking permit restrictions, along with other transport policy requirements, are
So I'm
included.
aware obviously of the car free element, but no, I mean I didn't even formulate a view on whether that was a good or a bad thing. I just
So for major schemes, it's often included
the inclusion of the car club.
for 3 years.
Thank you.
Any further points of clarification? Okay, great. Thanks, Laura. Oh wait, sorry, Councillor Moyes.
I just went on the car club element because Zipcar has famously left London, disappeared now, hasn't it? So how does that relate to the car club provision?
So there's a note within the Section 106 agreement that notes that Zipcar is obviously ceasing operations. So the applicant will need to ensure that the agreement is with an alternative operator.
Councillor Whittam.
This came up in my committee, I think, and there are now 3 other providers.
Abby's helpfully pulled them up. So it's Hire Car, Enterprise Car Club, and Co Wheels. So that would be included within the 106.
Councillor Higson.
Yeah, so it states that 25% will be social rented. Do we have a breakdown of whether it's 1, 2, or 3 bedrooms? It is in there. Okay.
Yeah, you want to put up the slide
So the proposed tenure mix here is, I would just need to do some calculations. I do believe that table it's not within the report, but I can work it out for you.
If that's okay.
Councillor Newens.
Sorry, one more thing. In paragraph 104, I suppose it. So it's a scale section of drawings have been provided to confirm a minimum floor to ceiling height of 2.5 metres across all units and the change of level at ground floor. The proposal of dual entrance lifts to negotiate the half level at ground floor seems inefficient. That says raising the ground floor residential units above grade by 900 millimetres would improve its amenity to some extent in terms of outlook and privacy and address flood risk. My understanding is, I suppose I was kind of like sort of, because that's not been done, right? So I suppose I was sort of curious that was included in the report as something which it suggests ought to have happened, but hasn't happened.
So these are comments from our design and conservation officer. So obviously we worked throughout the pre-application and there were many suggestions, not all of which could be taken on board for various reasons. The applicant may be able to provide further comment on why that is. But the overall design, which I think you can see from the evolution from the pre-application stage and also the amendments that we secured throughout the process, the design and everything is considered acceptable. So yes, you are correct. There are further changes that technically could have been secured, but they weren't required to make the development acceptable.
If that's everyone okay for clarifications? Okay, great. Thanks, Laura. Next, I'll move on to objectors. Does anyone present wish to speak in objection to the application? I'll take that as a no. So I'll move on to the applicant. We do have registered speakers. We have Nick Farn and and Alex Wythe. Sorry. If you'd like to come forward. Silav, if you'd like to.
Just quickly, John Murray is from the Trust. I was to speak, but John has more in-depth knowledge of the history of the club and been on the board of the Trust for some time, so he's going to speak in my place.
Okay, yeah, that's okay with me, I think. So yeah, John, if you'd like to come forward. If you'd both like to introduce yourself, you'll have 3 minutes total, and I'll start the timer after you've introduced yourselves. And I'll let you know when you have 30 seconds left. Thanks.
Hello, yeah, my name's Alex Wythe from ACA Studios. We're the architects for the project.
My name's John Murray. I'm a member of the DCM Hollington Trust.
Great.
I won't really go into too much more comments other than what Lara said for the committee report, so I'll be here to answer some questions. If people have got questions, maybe about the inefficiency question, probably something that we can do, but I'll just hand over for your kind of detail about the club itself.
Thank you. This is a statement from the chairman. The DCM Hollington Trust has for over 130 years supported the youth and community of Southwark by providing a club and sports facilities. It has been funded mainly by donations from Old Lanians over the years and does not rely on funding from Dulwich College. For many years, the boys at Dulwich contributed a weekly amount to help fund the club, as well as joining in with activities at the club. Eventually, the upkeep of the club and keeping it fit for purpose became uneconomical and meant that if continued, it would have to be liquidated within a year or two. That was back in 2015-2016. It was therefore decided to look at recapitalising by putting a fit-for-purpose youth club accompanied with flats above to recapitalise the charity. Sadly, with the COVID pandemic and increased costs, etc., the developer for this scheme had to withdraw since it became uneconomical. DCM Hollington Trust then looked at the next best thing to help the local situation, and after discussion with the council and various local bodies, decided that we would look at the social housing scheme, which has for some while been badly needed in the borough. If the scheme is approved from the recapitalised fund then generated, it will mean that we will, from the income earned, be able to support local good causes for the youth and community. Discussions have already been held with Southwark Cathedral, local bodies, and 2 trustees have been appointed to assess the strength of ongoing claimants. It is not intended to use the capital invested, but rather the interest earned. In this way, we will continue in the long term, say for another 100+ years, to be able to support our charity's objectives as laid down in our memorandum and articles. Finally, we must point out that for nearly 9 or 10 years, we have been unable to support the youth as we would like to have been doing, without a viable option in place. We very much see this planning application as an excellent way forward to achieving our aims of supporting local communities in Southwark. Thank you.
Thank you. Do members have any questions for the applicants and John? Councillor Newlands?
Thank you. Thank you very much. I wanted to come to in a sense, the question that I've already raised with the planning officer about the urban greening factor. Yep. And obviously, and this I suppose, so in order to maintain that 0.4 urban greening factor, yep, it's essential that space obviously is quite tight, and it's essential obviously that the quality of the planting on all the areas which is currently envisaged it will exist is maintained. Yep. It's my I mean, so how would you anticipate that should happen?
Okay, so the roof system, the green roof system is usually a system. It's to get the points for urban greening factor. We've used an intensive green roof rather than just a simple green roof, and that's installed at the time of the building. So in the same way that anything that is not built correctly as part of the planning permission isn't built, if the green roof isn't built to those kind of standards, then obviously it's a breach of planning and there's enforcement action that can be had upon that lack of action. Same thing with the other landscape. So the landscaping design will be conditioned, and if it's not completed to that standard or maintained, again, it can be enforced against to be not completed. Now, sort of intensive green roofs, they don't require much maintenance. They have a kind of a yearly requirement. Often we see them on our schemes where they're actually overgrowing. You'll see quite big bits of grasses and all sorts of stuff sticking out above there. So they won't kind of become less intensive, I would think, over the years. There's nothing, no one can take anything away to make them less workable. There may be maintenance issues with where we're having a drought at the moment or something, but we'd always expect something to come back and eventually be back and be self-seeded, or the greenery come back again. So that's about as much as I can help you with on that, I'm afraid.
Could Chair, may I continue? Yeah. So, is there a plan in place for? Is there funding available? Who would be responsible for maintaining it? Would that come out of service charges, or how would that you envisage that?
The freeholder of the property would kind of maintain it as part of the service charge of the development itself. Yeah.
Thank you. And Dennis, so we've already said that would be conditioned in the.
Yes. And I've got a sample condition.
Lovely.
For
Okay.
the committee.
Thank you.
Chair.
Chair, may I ask another question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. I wanted to ask about so on slide 33 here, there's a overview of the mix between the private, the way that the private units, the rented units, the social rent units and the shared ownership units are lined up together. I just wanted to ask if there was any difference in the outward appearance of those homes. Is there any difference between the private units and the social rented units and the shared
Visually
ownership
from the
units?
outside, they've all been designed as tenure blind, so there should be nothing that you will be able to see from the outside of the buildings you'll be able to maintain. You'll be able to see from the outside. The actuality is that the scheme is likely to become 100% affordable housing. So, but for a planning application, we're doing it as 40% affordable housing. So there's something called additionality in grant funding, which is a bit of a strange thing with the GLA, but essentially, if you go to the GLA and say, I have a scheme for 40% affordable housing, but I want to make it 100% affordable housing, they will give you extra money against the 60% that is actually private housing. So you can't go in and say it's 100% affordable housing that's signed by the Section 106, because then they won't give you the extra grant for that extra 60%. So we have to say it's 40% for the planning application, but in reality it's likely to be 100% planning, 100% affordable housing. So where the shared ownership, where the rented units are within the mix and the blocks is actually, it's a bit irrelevant really, because essentially it's all going to be one tenure probably anyway.
Thank you. So both inside and outside, you like in the communal areas inside as well, you wouldn't be able to see that difference.
Yeah, exactly. Because of the size of the scheme, having a single staircase that runs throughout the building, it's very difficult to split a private flat here and a shared ownership flat there, because generally what housing associations or private developers like to do is to have separate tenures, separate service charges. So the private tenants might want the communal corridors cleaned twice a week, while the social rented tenants won't want to pay for that on the social on their service charge. And so generally, if a scheme with a single stair call like this, it's just usually easier to have one tenure, and it's difficult to do with a scheme of this size to have splits in tenure.
Thank you, Chair.
Just to follow up on that on the green roof, so we have here a proposed condition for the green roof, which I'll just read out and just see if that's acceptable for you, if you're happy with that. The approved green roof system shall be fully completed prior to the first occupation of the building, and shall be retained and maintained thereafter for the lifetime of the development. Any dead, failing or damaged planting must be replaced during the next planting season, with the reason to enhance the local biodiversity and secure the long-term visual amenity of the development. And just check that's okay with you.
Yeah, that seems standard for all the schemes we do, so that's fine.
Great. Back to questions. I just want to check before I come to you, Councillor Nunes, if anyone else has any questions they'd like to raise for the applicant first. Just to... Yeah. Councillor Nunes?
Thank you. I just wanted to comment on the condition that you've read out, if it is possible to say all green areas, including the green roof, rather than just the green roof.
I think that'd probably be a landscaping condition would be separate to the green roof condition, which would probably have a similar type of wording.
Yeah, I'm not sure if we already have a landscaping condition. If we just check that with the officers quickly.
While you're doing that, shall I just ask the question about the inefficiency on the entrance that you queried earlier?
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So the site's kind of got quite a high flood risk. So normally you would have the flats at ground floor level. So it's made it a bit challenging to get the design to work because all the flats have to be 900 millimeters, almost a meter higher than the ground level. So having an accessible scheme, so you have for wheelchair users and for ambulant disabled people to be able to come into the scheme and go up the building, you have to have two lifts that have doors either side of it, so it brings you up to the ground level with a sort of 900 millimeter raise, and then it can carry on further up if you need to. So to avoid that kind of double-sided lift, you'd have to have a series of ramps taking you from the entrance of the block of flats from the pavement level all the way to the first lifts, and that would involve lots of kind of handrails and ramping, and it would really kind of cluster up what is actually a really nice, generous kind of lobby area that we've got at the moment. So I'm not quite sure where the inefficient comments come from the design office, because we didn't really discuss that too much during the pre-application, but we looked at it in quite a lot of detail and we felt this was the simplest, neatest solution.
Great, thanks. Councillor Moyes?
It was just the bit you said about the proportion of affordable housing could increase from 40% to 100%. That's quite reassuring to hear, because obviously in the local area quite a lot of people are living without lots of money, so to speak. What's the likelihood of that actually happening then? Is that a certainty or an aspiration?
It's not a certainty at the moment because we're in the process of a new funding round for affordable housing. So at the moment, all the housing associations have applied for their grant. They're hoping to hear, as it's all a bit up in the air, GLA have not building nearly enough affordable housing in London over the last however many years. So there's a large chunk of money that's not been used because viability on housing, which you're probably aware of, is absolutely terrible at the moment. It's such a low level of affordable housing or any housing being built at the moment. So the client is probably ahead of the game in terms of people kind of wanting to get the kind of those new affordable housing built. So this kind of the idea is that in September, which is what I've heard is on the grapevine, is when the housing associations will find out when their grant money's coming in. We'll have a scheme that's kind of ready to go, and they can assign all of that grant towards that. So they're waiting on the GLA to give them the grant now. So that's what I understand. So it's sort of a stuck a bit with the housing associations and the GLA at the moment.
Yes, it did. Thank you.
Any further questions for the applicant? And just to check, so confirm on the condition there about expanding it to all landscaping.
Chair, we can add a separate landscaping condition.
So a specific landscaping condition wasn't requested because of the detail in the approved plans, but we can add the standard one as well as the UGF condition as two additional conditions if you'd like.
Yeah,
I think that would be good. Councillor Nunes, if you'd like to add.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose realistically, if you have to maintain the UGF, then you've got to maintain the landscaping. So I suppose that absolutely makes sense. I suppose I'm thinking, sort of practically speaking, it's probably easier to monitor whether or not you maintain the landscaping than for somebody to come sort of, and I don't think many members of the public are going to be sort of asking for a planning enforcement case because the UGF has been broken, for example. So that's why I think keeping to the landscaping is just sort of it makes it easier for people to understand.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for your contribution, sir. Next, we move to supporters. Does anyone present live within 100 metres of the development site and wish to speak in support of the application? Okay, I don't think we have anyone present in the room for that. And next would be ward councillors. So if any of the local ward councillors who are present would wish to speak for residents or on the application, I'd be welcome forward. Non-present here at the moment. So, following that, we can now open the debate for members. Would any member of the committee like to speak further on this matter?
Oh, sorry. I'd like to recommend that we approve this with the conditions as recommended about the greening. Is that okay?
Yeah, I would agree with that as well. I think, yeah. If anyone's finished for comments there, perfect. I'll just read it from here. So I would like to move that we adopt the officer's recommendations as set out in paragraphs 1 and 2, along with the conditions as discussed. Of the reports on page 13 of the main agenda pack, any amendments to the conditions during the hearing. Yeah, so that covers that as well. So the recommendations, the planning permission be granted subject to conditions and the applicant entering into an appropriate legal agreement. In the event the requirement of paragraph 1 above are not met by 22nd of January 2027, the Director of Planning and Growth be authorised to refuse planning permission, if appropriate, for the reasons set out below. In the absence of a signed legal agreement, the proposal would fail to provide suitable mitigation in terms of planning gain, contrary to policy DF1, delivery of the plan and planning obligations of the London Plan 2022. Policy P1, social rented and intermediate housing, and policy 1P3, community infrastructure levy, and section 106, planning obligations of the Southwark Plan 2022, and Southwark section 106, planning obligations and community 13 infrastructure levy, SPD 2015. Does any member of the committee wish to second this? Councillor Solomon? And before we proceed to a vote, any member of the committee is welcome to propose any amendments. No? So members vote. We will now move to the vote. I will call on the voting members of this committee to vote by show of hands to indicate if you are in favour, against or wish to abstain in the motion. So all those in favour? And so that's a unanimous decision there. So we don't need to do the other ones. But thank you. Great. So the motion is carried. The application is granted. And that. Thank you. So we could stop for a break now, if people would like a comfort break. We'll stop for 5 minutes before we carry on to the next application. Thank you. Great. So next we'll move to item 6.2. It's application 26 AP 0528 for full planning application. Address Alleyne School, Townley Road, Southwark, SE 22 8SU, pages 114 to 138 of the agenda pack and addendum report. And so I'll pass over to Abby to present.
Thank you, Chair. As mentioned, this application is at Alleyne School, Townley Road, and is for the temporary erection of a dining marquee until the 31st of October 2028. This plan shows the site location, so we are looking at the area in red, which is kind of in the middle of the wider school site, which you can see is outlined in blue. I've drawn here the red line boundary on the aerial view, so as you can see it's just on the edge of the school playing field on an area of hard standing, and the applicants have provided here a photo of what that area looks like. So this is exactly where it will go, and I can show you in the elevation, but where my cursor is there, where it steps down, is kind of the end of where the marquee would be. We are in a Metropolitan Open Land designation, which is where it's being reported to you at Planning Committee. We have carried out consultation to 46 neighbouring properties, put up a site notice and publicised in the Southwark News. I will just say, I know in your printed pack I've put 2023, I meant 2026, and no comments were received in response to the consultation. The temporary marquee is required by the school to provide dining facilities during the construction of the new dining hall, which received a resolution to grant at the last planning committee on the 30th of June 2026. The marquee will be to the south of the Edward Alleyne School building within the MOL designation. It will be 100 square metres, finished in UPVC, and it has been slightly amended during the course of the application in terms of the location. This just shows you the proposed elevation. So on the right you can see where it steps down, as I mentioned on the photograph. Otherwise it's almost 4 metres in height, finished in white UPVC. And this is just an image of the product specification that the applicants have provided, so you get an idea of what it would look like. The Metropolitan Open Land designation needs to be considered in the policy context, which is that it is offered the same policy protection as Greenbelt under the London Plan. The Southwark Plan restricts development on MOL unless it preserves openness and does not conflict with the function of the open space. So in this context, the marquee would be ancillary to the school's established use, and given the scale of it, the fact that it's predominantly on hard standing and sits in front of an existing building, it is not considered to affect the openness of the Metropolitan Open Land. Also note that it's temporary and fully reversible. We are not in the Dulwich Village Conservation Area, it's just outside of it. So there wouldn't be any impact in that regard. I'll show you a photograph on the next slide showing that it would be screened by trees, fencing and courts, so rarely visible. Here you can see the fence, the tennis courts, and then it would sit behind this weeping willow where my cursor is. And as I said, this is a view from the conservation area. It's within the middle of the school site and therefore would not impact on neighbours in terms of its scale, size, anything like that, and it wouldn't result in the intensification of the education use. A condition is recommended to control any noise from any plant that might be required. The location was amended during the application in response to tree and biodiversity concerns. No trees sit within the red line boundary. Originally it was a bit closer to trees, so essentially we've just moved it a bit further away. And again, only affects 20 square metres of grassland, so it meets the de minimis BNG exemption and doesn't have any impact on the site of importance for nature conservation. It is therefore recommended that planning permission is granted subject to conditions. I'll just run through the conditions quickly. So we've got compliance with approved plans, that the marquee shall be removed and the land restored to its former condition on or before the 31st of October 2028, a plant noise condition, and then just materials, so ensuring that it's in line with what's been submitted. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Abby. Do any members have any points of clarifications they wish to raise? Councillor Whitton?
How is this heated then?
So the concept is that it will run off of the school's mains, which uses green tariffs. There might need to be a plant, hence the plant noise condition, but the applicant can expand on that if you need any further information. Thanks.
Any further points? Thanks, Abby. Next, we will move to objectors. So, does anyone present wish to speak in objection to the application? Take that as a no, as there's no one present. Then we'll move to the applicant. So is the applicant or agent present to speak? So we have Guy Collins Downs and Oliver Coleman, if you'd like to come forward. Great, if you'd like to introduce yourselves, you'll have 3 minutes, and then I'll let you know when you've got 30 seconds left.
Thank you. So, Guy Collins Down, Chief Operating Officer for Alleyne School. Good evening, Chair, members of the committee and councillors. I'm here today to speak in support of our application for permission to install a temporary marquee on our grounds. When presenting our dining hall scheme to this committee previously, I described Project Crucible as a once-in-a-generation opportunity for Alleyne's to modernise its estate and ensure it meets the needs of current and future students. This application represents the final piece of that complex programme. As outlined in the officer report, the proposal sits within Metropolitan Open Land. We are proud custodians of more than 20 acres of MOL and remain committed to its protection and enjoyment for our school community, neighbours and the wider public. At the same time, we are a busy and constrained school site. Project Crucible has been carefully designed in sequential phases to minimise disruption to learning while replacing one of the school's most important facilities, its dining hall. Throughout the project, we've focused on sustainability and reuse. For example, we have repurposed our school gym as a temporary dining facility and adapted existing shipping containers to create a grab-and-go dining provision, avoiding the need for significantly larger temporary structures than is proposed. We have, however, not been able to accommodate all the required spaces for dining, and that is why this proposal comes in. This marquee provides a remainder of that space, including for staff who support the essential work of school every day. We have worked closely with officers throughout the process. In response to feedback, the marquee has been relocated away from trees, positioned on existing hard-standing wherever possible to minimise ecological impact, and aligned with an existing 3-storey building so that it sits comfortably within the wider campus. It will also be powered through existing green energy supply tariffs. The effects on MOL will be temporary, enforced by Condition 2 of the decision notice, only whilst Crucible is under construction. We have consulted extensively with our Neighbours Advisory Group and the wider community, receiving no negative feedback on this scheme. I therefore ask the committee to support the necessary application and our wider commitment to educational transformation, sustainability, responsible reuse and community partnership. Thank you for your consideration.
Thanks, Guy. Do any members have any questions for the applicant? Councillor Newens?
Thank you very much. What will you do with it afterwards?
So we are actually purchasing it to ensure it has a life beyond, and it's been purchased in 5 metre square units, so we intend eventually to be able to reuse it in different parts of the site if needed, or sell on sections for reuse by other parties.
Thank you. So it is fully reusable. Yeah, thank you.
Any further questions? Great. Thanks, Guy. Thanks for coming down. That's great. Next, I'll move to supporters. Does anyone present live within 100 metres of the development site and wish to speak in support of the application? We have no one present for that. Next will be ward councillors. So are there any ward councillors who wish to speak on the matter? I can't see any in the room, so I'll go past that too. Next is if we'll open up to debate. If any members of the committee would like to speak any further on the matter. Councillor Overton?
I think we should crack on to the vote.
I agree with that as well. With that, I'll move to the motion. So I'd like to move that we adopt the officer's recommendations as set out in paragraph 1 of the report on page 118 of the main agenda pack. Any amendments to the condition during, and there were no amendments to the conditions during the hearing. So the recommendation is to grant the planning permission, subject to conditions and the applicant completing a unilateral undertaking. Does any member of the committee wish to second this? I'll take Councillor Overton. Thanks. Before the committee proceeds to vote, any members of the committee, would they like to propose any amendments? No. Great.
Sorry, Abby, you wanted to?
Sorry.
Just on that recommendation, there isn't a unilateral undertaking, it's just conditions.
Okay.
That's okay.
Sorry to interrupt. So just for everyone's clarification there isn't a unilateral undertaking, so that's not part of this. I don't know if I should reread it out or...
No, it's fine. Nothing to correction. It's fine. Things are clear. But for the benefit of doubt, if you wish to reread it, that's fine as well.
Yeah, I think it should be okay.
Yeah,
with that. So I'll move to vote. So I will call on the voting members of the committee to vote by show of hands to indicate if they are in favour, against, or that they wish to abstain on the motion. So for those in favour? Great. So we have it unanimously there. So the application is granted. And that finishes our business for the evening, I believe. Thank you, everyone. And thank you for the applicants.
Thank you, Abby.
Thanks, Abby.
Thanks.
Thank you, Solomon.
Thanks.
Thanks.